Hey, solopreneurs, Gabe here. Today we have Eva Medilek of Style for Success LLC. She is a certified high performance coach, international speaker, author, and cultural inclusivity trainer. For more information on her, go to the show notes. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Eva Medilek. Eva, thank you for being on the podcast.
Gabe, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. We're going to have so much fun.
Oh, I totally agree. I'm really excited to have you talk about high performance habits on how you can help and how those high performance habits can help my listeners make more money, have happier, healthier lives, and just have all around much better businesses and lives. And so I'm really excited for you to share that today. Before we go there, though, I always like to hear your story. So here we are. You and I are in a podcast. Where did you come from? How did we get to this point?
What's the plan? Why am I here? In my former life, I was a dental hygienist for more than 30 years and successful in New York, moved out to California about 15 years ago and was creating, you know, was successful in working in San Francisco, to say the least. And then the crash of 2008 happened. And things were suddenly different. And I found myself a couple of years after the crash being 50 years old and being downsized and my salary cut as a result of the economy crashing. And for the first time in my life, I realized that I did not want to rely on having a job for my income. I was newly married to my second husband. I had two kids in college, and I was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm 50 years old, having to interview. It was totally humiliating. And so then I was on the quest to find how I can create passive streams of income and live out my dream and my husband and I's dream of, taking time off in the summer, 2 or 3 months at a time, living in Europe. He's from Germany. And so we had these dreams, but we really had no way to see these dreams happen. So we were just dreaming about them and we had goals and we just automatically assumed it would happen. And I thought, well, I can't work and take 3 months off. That doesn't make sense. So I actually looked for ways to be an entrepreneur. And I read, I don't know if you heard of Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was reading one of his books on actually network marketing, and I got interested in real estate. And I realized that that was something that I can do. And went to one of those free seminars that they have to invite you to real estate. And that was it for me. And from that time on, I built a real estate investment company. And here's the thing about that, and forgive me for hesitating, but I was achieving success in that. And my program is called Success Without Sacrifice. So I was working as a hygienist. I had hired coaches and mentors, and I was taking training to learn the proper way, the smart way to invest in real estate. And do you remember that song from the late 1970s? I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget you're a man, 'cause I'm a woman. That was me.
Yes.
I was doing it all. And ideas like that literally set me and a lot of other people up to believe that we can have it all, but that we have to do it all too. And so I found myself feeling stressed out, burnt out, and overwhelmed. My mood was affected, my health was affected, my relationship was affected. And I realized at that point that, yes, I'm achieving success, but I was sacrificing some other things that were important to me. And that's how I got into the power of high performance coaching.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, how did you come across then? You came to the power of high performance coaching. How did you learn about it? Did you find a book? Did someone introduce you, or how did that come about?
Yes, there was a group of us entrepreneurs that were recommended the book High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. And so we had this kind of taking that test of where we are in our life and reading the book. And I found it completely overwhelming. It's like, there's no way, it's too statistical. And I set it aside for a while. And then I started following Brendan Burchard himself and hearing about his message, about the research that he's done on highly successful people and the habits that they consistently implement in their lives so that they can achieve sustainable success without it costing them their health, their well being, and their relationships. And I became really intrigued and picked up the book again. And I'm like, this is it. And so I applied actually to take his coaching certification program so that I could share this with other people. Because when I started implementing those habits in my life, I realized how beneficial they were to not only me achieving my success, but enjoying my success without feeling stressed out, burnt out, and overwhelmed, and really having the physical energy and the mental and emotional stamina to create the life of my dreams. Because before that, Gabe, honestly, I was Miss Cranky Pants. My back and my shoulders hurt all the time. I was feeling frustrated and not supported in my marriage. And one morning, I woke up to the fact that my husband was having an affair. And that was the two by four to the head that let me know that who I was being as I was building my company and the success was costing me everything that I was building my company and success for. My health, my joy, my relationship with, the man that I wanted to enjoy the success with was severely compromised and sacrificed. And I knew that if I didn't change who I was being and take responsibility, 100% responsibility for my half of that relationship, that it would be all for naught and I would lose everything. And so that was the wake up call that I needed to know that, yes, I have the skills. Yes, I have the smarts. Yes, I'm a hard worker. And yes, I can do it all, but I don't have to do it all. I really need to prioritize what's important to me so that I can have my success without sacrificing everything that's important to me in the process.
You just touched on something that is extremely important is the I don't have to do it all. There are so many people listening, so many solopreneurs, so many entrepreneurs that feel like they have to do it all.
Hmm.
For you to then say, no, 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 you don't have to do it all. That's a really important point because that constantly striving and that constantly trying to continue to do things, although is part of the drive for solopreneurs, can also be um, can be your downfall, much like you had felt.
And for some of us, it happens differently. The really painful part of mine was not the physical pain that I was enduring from where I was holding stress in my body, but it was the pain of knowing that a man that is the most integrous person that I know on this earth, felt the need to look somewhere else for his needs and his happiness. And I looked back on how I was showing up in that relationship, and I wouldn't have wanted to be in relationship with me as well. And it's not, I don't want your listeners to hear that I'm excusing him or he didn't share responsibility as well. But we had a basic lack of communication because of where our focus were. And so we really had to learn to come together to communicate in a way that made us both feel seen, heard, acknowledged, and respected in the relationship, and to trust each other to be honest with some of the things that we were experiencing in the relationship. And we got help. We reached out for help and healing. We reached out to coaches, we reached out to therapists, and through the work that we did, I was able to develop a framework that I take a lot of my clients through about how our early life experiences, unbeknownst to us, have set certain habits, patterns, beliefs, and behaviors that show up to damage and sabotage how we relate as adults. And it really is a subtle way of it happening, whatever role models of relationships that we had in our lives or early life, how we responded to anxiety in our earlier life. We bring that to our adult relationships, and it doesn't serve those relationships. So we had to recognize some of the things that we were bringing from our past, from our childhoods, from our hurts and experiences into the relationship, and how, and look at exactly where and how that was physically, not physically, emotionally damaging us, and how we reacted and responded to triggers in our adult lives. And once we were able to do that, it was easier to go into the high performance and have the high performance habits, practices, and principles and framework work for us. I should say me specifically, because, through it all, I'm a little bit more of a personal development follower than my husband is. So, but the work that we did earlier on, we had to do that together and go through that together and create a framework for our marriage where we are committed to the relationship we want to have without necessarily being committed to having that relationship with each other. And so that's a writer downer right there, because I can even see you looking at me like, huh? What does that mean? And so
Exactly.
let me dive into that a little bit. People are human and they make mistakes. And if we've not learned anything from the past couple of years of what we went through, cancel culture is real. You make a mistake, you're canceled. You don't give, people are not being given the opportunity to grow and learn from their mistakes and be better for them without being made to feel the shame, blame, and guilt that comes with making a mistake. And so, when we looked at our relationship, we knew that I was going to mess up still. He was going to mess up still. We may not be communicating like we agreed upon, speaking each other's love languages like we agreed upon. Let our emotions get the best of us and not our intellect, show up where it should show up. And so we had to come to a place to know that we're working towards the same goal of having this um, connected relationship with each other where we have open communication. And that was the focus of our commitment, knowing that as humans, we would fail individually along the way. But we have made this agreement not to, hold each other, hold it against us, that we're working towards the common goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah. I, I'm I, I'm feeling the need to go back a little bit and just point something out. I mean, I grew up in a family of multiple marriages and divorces, and came into a family that had been no divorces whatsoever when I got married. And I can still remember the look on my future in-laws' face when they basically were like, "Your parents have been married 3 times?" "Yeah." "Both of them?" "Yeah." "And you want to marry our daughter?" I mean, it was not said, but it was the bubbles, the bubble, like
The
Charlie
thought
Brown bubble
bubble.
heads. Yeah, the thought bubbles were like, "And you want to marry our daughter?" And what I basically looked them in before they could even say it, and I said, "I learned what I didn't want. I learned growing up what I didn't want." And so, I mean, Melissa and I have an absolutely amazing relationship. And the biggest thing, though, and I'm going to pull it back around to what you said, and it's communication. It's that communication that we have. And we've seen family members, we've seen friends, we've seen people we know go through hard times, like you had said that you did. And by the way, thank you for sharing that. That's a personal thing to share. So thank you. Uh, but it all comes down to communication. So that communication piece is just so important. So I felt compelled to bring that communication piece back up for our listeners, that we've got to communicate in all of those ways. So,
Most conflict occurs when we don't feel seen, heard, and respected. It's usually we have this reaction, we have a need to defend, we have a need to react, we have a need to prove our worthiness, and it becomes a bit of a battle. But when you learn the framework of how to have effective communication and connection in your relationships, it works in every area of your life and you show up as more of a leader, how you make people feel in the process of even any difficult conversations is more important than the outcome. It's more important than winning, and yes, I fought for what I wanted and I got it. But how did you leave the other person feeling? And, learning that is so powerful to learn, but it's actually, in order to grow yourself, you've got to know yourself a little better. And some people don't know really why they have these triggers, why they have these reactions. And I'll share something with you because I have this framework called the five relationship personality styles, and there are five of them based on our early life experiences. And the one that I have been diagnosed by my own test with, I recognize it right away, is one who's always seeking connection, but is also very hard and critical of mistakes. And so the dynamic, how that plays out in my relationships, and I will just say, and how I relate to everybody in the world, I remember being about, I don't know, maybe an early teenager, and I was having this conversation with my father. Now, my father is a classic evader because I made an acronym out of the word style. And so he would have a conversation with me with the paper in front of his face. So, like, zero connection whatsoever. And I remember one day he didn't like a particular boy that he saw me having a conversation with. And I remember the day he said to me, "If anybody tells you you're pretty, they're lying. They just want one thing. So don't trust it," or whatever the exact wording was. And so in my, adolescent brain, I heard that I wasn't pretty. And if anybody ever told me I was, they were lying. They wanted something, don't believe it. And so my entire life, I found it difficult to take a compliment. Couldn't say thank you for the compliment, had to have an excuse. "Oh, you look pretty." Well, Estee Lauder makeup, it can hide flaws. "Oh, those glasses look great on you." They were only $9. They were on sale. You and I had a similar conversation. It's part of those past habits that come up that just can't accept it and say thank you. And it shows up to where people are like, why do I even bother giving this girl a compliment? She's always got something to say in retaliation. She just can't take it. And that's just a minor example on how those little things in life can really sabotage how you show up in the world today.
Very interesting, and I love how you pulled that through because you're right. I looked at you and I'm like, "Man, those glasses are cool." "Oh, yeah, I got them 9 bucks." So I totally I love how you connected that, and I totally see that. So, one of the things that I'm starting to get a feel for is this framework that you have, and you said you have it based on the acronym of STYLE. And
Mhm.
so you said your father was an evader.
Yeah, let me go through them with you a little bit. So, our relationships, our way of being in relationships, whether personal or professional, is formed by our early life experiences, our habits, patterns, beliefs, behaviors, and our reactions. And, you know, there are five unique styles that I came up with this acronym for that um, to make it easier to remember. So for S, seeks to please. That's a pleaser relationship style. And so in that style, you tended to grow up in a household where you had either a very critical parent or an overprotective parent. Then you have T in style, which is tries to control. And in that style, you grew up in a household where there was a lot of maybe abuse, addiction, a lot of chaos and turmoil in the home. STY. Why is, I got to spell it out in my own brain here. why is what I call yo-yoing or back and forth or a push pull. You have that desire to be connected to a parent who is always too busy for you. And so your parents were more absorbed in their lives and what they were doing than to have time for you. And those rare times that they did have time for you were so magical and special that you spend a lot of your time wanting to recreate that, to where mommy has time or daddy's not with the paper in front of his face and having to pay attention. And then you've got L in style, which is looks to accept blame. Now, these kids grew up in the same type of chaotic, abusive, or maybe some addiction in the home with some turmoil as the tries to control, the controller type. But these were the more passive kids that just thought if they were good or if they behaved better, the abuse and the addiction would stop. I'll promise I'll be good. Please just stop hitting mommy, or whatever like that. And so they had more of a passive style of dealing with things. And then finally, you have E, the evades emotions. And these people grew up in households where their parents were emotionally detached and unavailable. And you may have heard big girls don't cry, man up, don't be a P, boys don't cry, you could do it. And you weren't, anytime you showed any kind of emotion, it was shut down because it made your parents uncomfortable. And so you had to suck it up. Take it like a man. Big girls don't cry. You're bigger than that. And so, with each of these styles, we've developed specific habits, patterns, and traits in how it shows up in our adult lives. But it was a result of the anxiety that we felt. Not that our parents were bad. Not that our parents were intentionally like that, because they had their own household styles that they grew up with. Parents that emphasized good grades, parents that emphasized certain achievements or sportsmanship or whatever, that, fathers who never hugged their sons and never kissed their sons and told them they love them. So we all come with something, and our parents did the best that they could with the tools that they were given from their parents. But we have an opportunity now in this day and age to upgrade our toolbox so that we can show up better for the people that we have influence and are role modeling behavior for.
So, do you have maybe some tips and tricks or the habits that someone can use? So someone's listening and goes, geez, I think I'm one of those pleaser people.
I have a quiz.
You have a quiz. Okay.
I have a quiz that you could take to determine what your relationship personality style is, and it will give you the transformation goal for that personality style in the quiz. And all you need to do is go to go to evamedilek.com/quiz. I haven't upgraded it to the website yet because I used to give the quiz out on a different platform, but I'm now using this really cool platform where you get your results right away. And so I think that's really helpful for my evamedilek.com/quiz. And then you'll have specifically what the transformation goal is for your style. And the one thing I want to emphasize to you and your listeners, when you take the quiz, you may find that, well, I'm some of this and I'm some of that. Well, it's like being in university and in college. You major in one style, but you minor in another. And a lot of them have some overlapping behavior. So, you know what? This is something that I created. It has really been over 99% accurate when I, have the discovery call with my clients and, really ask some probing questions to find out, yep, this is it. And this is how it's showing up. And this is how it's damaging, what you want to create in your life, the relationships that you want to have, the success you want to have. It's because in cases where a lot of people, maybe somebody early in your life said you'll never be successful. So you get close to success and maybe you pull back. There's so many ways that these styles can show up that are not beneficial to what we want to create.
So, for those of you listening, that will be in the show notes. So the Eva Medilek, EVAMEDILEK, right? /quiz.
Yep.
We'll make sure .com. I'm sorry. .com /quiz. We will make sure that is in the show notes so that you're able to get it. So let's just say, for fun and games, let's do a little bit of a almost like a case study. So someone could put this into their own work. So someone goes and fills out the quiz,
Mhm,
and they decide, all right, I'm going to have Eva help me interpret this, and a typical person then is going to start to want to take action.
mhm.
Help me understand what you do then. I mean, how do you come in? How do you support these people? Maybe share a story or an example of something that has happened in the past, if you would. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I have a client that I started working with just prior to the pandemic. I think it was January 2020, and, it was a colleague of mine who wanted to start a nonprofit to help LGBTQ plus homeless youth. He wanted to end youth homelessness in his community. And he signed on for the what I call my Success Without Sacrifice signature program. And the first piece is this relationship style assessment. And then we move into the sessions of high performance. And at one point, we discovered we had this huge aha of discovery based on his growing up with his parents. He couldn't really ask for help until he proved himself. And so we were at a point where we were working on how to ask for support in growing, getting the nonprofit, growing the business, the donations, to get help, to stop trying to do everything yourself. Give yourself permission to stop trying to do everything and ask for support and leverage. And he was really stuck at that and really stuck at that. And what we discovered is that in his life, he always had to prove himself before his parents would help him in anything he wanted to do. And that energy he was bringing in to his work that he wanted to do, which prevented him from reaching out with to a bookkeeper, even to put systems in place, to all of that. He just wouldn't do it. And it was during one of those calls we discovered that, and that was a huge aha. And once he realized where that came from, he was able to successfully move past that. His business literally quadrupled within the year we were working together. Like he got the nonprofit, he had his first home, second. I'm like, he's traveling the country now, opening up homes all over the country. And we just started this a year and 8 months ago, and he's got support, he's got systems in place and everything, and he's realized he doesn't have to do it all himself to prove that he can do it. So that's how that is so powerful, because the minute he recognized it, he was able to create that shift and move past it and get her done.
And get her done. I love that. So basically, the whole purpose of the quiz and then also your work is to help you or someone recognize, all right, what's holding me back? What has got me stuck? What then can I do? Once I realize it, what then can I do to put the habits in place to get myself to where I'm trying to go?
Yeah, and it's really powerful not only to recognize what the blocks are, but where they came from.
Hmm.
And there's, I don't know, something that happens in the brain is just like, you know what? I can't take a compliment because my dad told me not to believe one when I was 13. Come on. It's time to move past that. And
Yeah.
so, not that it happens overnight because I'm in my 60s already, but, it's just like, okay, I can see when I start to say, oh no, I'm not pretty. I just have good makeup on today, or the lighting is great. And I catch myself and I learn to say, thank you. I appreciate the compliment,
Hmm.
because now I have this heightened awareness of where I can stop myself and where my blocks will come up. Once you're aware, it's just like, you see that car coming, you throw on the brakes so it doesn't hit you. But if you don't see it, you get hit.
And we would all prefer not to get hit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, is there anything else regarding the high performance habits that you would like to share? And we've kind of twisted and turned in a couple different places.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's like to be on a ride with me, Gabe. So welcome, welcome. Strap on. It's gonna be fun ride. Here's the thing I really want to emphasize with high performance, and I'm sure your audience is a bunch of high performers, but high high achievers is what I want to say. High achieving and high performance is two different things. And so when people hear high performance, immediately their cheeks tighten up and it means, oh, I got to work myself to death and I've got to compare myself to the billionaires of the world. And that's not the case. To become a high performer, and we can all be high performers, we all have that potential, is really about consistency, consistently putting habits and practices in place so that your success continues to grow. You're not a one hit wonder, but it grows in a way that you're not sacrificing what's important to you. And a lot of us, sell our souls to the devil to get that golden ticket or that golden egg. And it really is learning how to create a both and, how to have success without the sacrifice. Most of us are looking for work life balance, right? And if you look at a scale that's perfectly balanced, the number on the scale is zero. And you're trying to balance, you're going to have zero results. So get that out of your head and know that balance is not equal. Balance is personal and different for everyone, but you have the power to decide what side of the scale to add to or subtract from as you see fit. So, what I would say to everyone is that, and there's three things that you should have at top of mind when you're trying to create or advance your career without sacrificing your personal life. And it's kind of my CPR to jumpstart your high performance. This is a jumpstart because I always use the analogy of, a NASCAR race. I was just watching that. What's his name? Bubba somebody just won this NASCAR race, and they were interviewing him. And I remember watching races on TV when I was younger and seeing those cars go like high speeds, zooming around the track, and everybody wants to win, but they don't want to crash and burn, right? That's the whole thing. And I remember thinking whenever the lead car would get off and take a pit stop, I remember thinking, like, don't stop now. You're going to fall behind and lose the race. Like, why would they stop now? But taking a pit stop is so necessary so that you can continue to race without breaking down. And most of us, most high achievers, are going nonstop, trying to do everything they can to get ahead, and afraid that if they stop, they're going to fall behind and lose. And because they don't stop, their health is failing, their relationships are failing, everything is breaking down. And so taking a pit stop is necessary. And one of the things that you've got to do is know that it's not about going faster and not taking a break, because you will crash and burn. It's about knowing when to stop and take a pit stop, do an energy creation, do an energy release, so that you have the mental energy, physical stamina, and emotional strength to continue and end your day with as much energy as you started it, right? You don't want your family and the people that are important to you getting what's left over of you after the end of the day. You'll end up like me with a marriage, like, oh my God, if you had told me my husband was going to cheat on me or I'd get a third eye, I'd get eyelashes on my third eye. That's what I was planning. But, you know, it happens without you realizing it. So here's what I would do to kind of jumpstart your high performance and create that winning formula. First of all, it's my CPR for success. Clarity. You've got to be clear on what you want and what makes you happy. You get to look at where you're unhappy in life and how to get rid of that and have more of what makes you happy in life. Because when you are not clear on what you want, or don't have a vision for your life that matches your reality, You've got to ask certain questions that'll get you there and be in alignment to being very clear on what you want. And then P, priorities. Establish clear priorities. Be very conscious of what your priorities are, because when you don't have clear priorities, you're up to 30 times more likely to miss out on success. Studies have shown that. So when your priorities become clear, it's easier to make decisions when you're clear on what your priorities are. And the third is responsibility. R, take responsibilities for setting and creating clear boundaries and communicating with them, because you make poor choices by saying yes to everything to please everyone, and you end up overcommitted, stressed out, burnt out, and overwhelmed because of it. And so it's up to you to set it, to communicate it, and to support it, and not to run from it. So those were the three things that I would tell anybody who's listening, is how they can start to jumpstart high performance in their lives.
So I'm just going to repeat: clarity, get clear on where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do and how you want your life to be. Priorities, set your priorities so that you will make sure that you get those things done. And then establish the responsibility to stick with the clarity as well as the priorities, but also take responsibility for your own actions and your own communication. Is that?
Well, here's the thing about priorities. When you have clear priorities and you're faced with a decision and you're looking at the queen of FOMO and shiny object syndrome right here, like, ooh, that looks nice, that might help. You get to ask yourself, is this supporting the priority I have for the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year? If it's not, it's easy to say no. It's just easier to say no once you're clear on what your priorities are, and know that is this decision going to support my priorities or pull me further away from it? So it helps you with making clearer decisions. And when you have boundaries, listen, most of us have boundaries, but they're in our head and we expect other people to figure them out and know them. The responsibility is not only to have the boundaries, but to communicate them so that we get support and honoring our boundaries. Like the other day, I needed an hour to work on a chapter I'm writing for a book. And so I needed an undisturbed hour. So I told the people in my life, for the next hour, don't bother me with anything. That was creating and setting a boundary. If I hadn't done that, my husband would have knocked on the door. Honey, you want coffee? Honey, you want that? Yeah, it was like, don't bother me for an hour. And if I had, then I would have snapped back. Nah, I'm lucky, I'm busy. But like, he didn't know. So I'm saying this kind of in a lighthearted way with something really simple, is when your team members know what your boundaries are, they will support you in protecting those boundaries, so that they'll build that fortress around you so that none of the enemy gets in to attack you while you're doing what you need to do for your priorities.
I love that. Thank you. That's fantastic. So, Eva, this is a podcast about money, and there's three questions I'd like to ask every one of my guests about money. And the first one is what's the smartest thing you've ever done regarding money? And tell me that story.
The smartest thing I ever did about money was to max out every credit card that I had, to hire coaches, mentors, and trainers to learn how to invest in real estate the right way. And that came at a time when I had just been downsized and my salary was cut. And I did not know how I was going to pay my mortgage or my children's college tuition. But I knew that if I didn't take this opportunity when it was presented to me, that saw my vision for a life of freedom and passive income come to fruition, I would never do it. And so, it's interesting, when I made that decision, my husband literally had a panic attack, to where he needed to breathe in a paper bag panic attack, because that was a $35,000 investment of money I did not have. But I knew that I needed to bet on myself. I had no way of knowing if it was the right decision, but what I did know, that if I made the decision, I would make it the right decision, because I had so much skin in the game, that I would make it be the decision that actually brings my family the financial freedom it enjoys today.
That's fantastic. It's amazing how many of my guests have talked about betting on themselves as being one of their best investments or their best thing they ever did regarding money. So let's go to the other side of that coin. How about the biggest money mistake you've ever made? And tell me that story.
The biggest mistake I ever made was also on real estate, and that's when I didn't trust my gut. I trusted, and I'm really embarrassed to say this, I trusted the voice of a man instead of what I knew what was right, because they're a man, they should know better. And it really pains me to say that. And you know that that never happened again after that. Um, it wasn't a huge loss, but even my husband and I were talking about this not too long ago. The times that we've lost money is when we put our trust in other people, when we really should have trusted ourselves more. And sometimes your self doubt comes in, and you're hoping that other people know more than you do because maybe they have more years of experience. But we grew our business to reach the heights that it is within 4 years of starting. And I gave myself a 5-year plan, and to the point where I even was on House Hunters International. I didn't get to tell you that, but like that was a dream of mine, and I made that happen. But my point in sharing that is, when I get into places where I feel like an imposter and I start to trust other people more than my own gut or instinct, I make some really bad money mistakes.
And so now I would assume what you've learned from that is you need to trust your gut.
Yes, I need to
Mhm.
trust that everything that I've worked towards and all of the knowledge that I have is enough. I need to trust that I'm enough.
Mhm.
Mhm,
Interesting. Very good.
mhm.
How about what does mastering your finances mean to you?
Huh, that's a good question. What it means to me is really creating passive streams of income where I'm not relying on trading time for money. And that to me is the ultimate mastery. Some of the real estate that we're doing now is really going into newer territories for us, but we're controlling the real estate and other people are running the businesses on that real estate, or we're hiring people to run our business on the real estate. And so mastering that means leveraging so that we have systems in place that we can go for a month in Germany or 2 months in Germany. I was just sharing with you that we just got back a few days ago, and still know that deposits are still being made, and we're living our best lives and drinking our beers and having our sausages.
Oh, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. So, if any of my listeners would like to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can go to my website at evamedilek.com, or if you're really serious about having a conversation with me, just go to talkwitheva.com and let's connect. Let's see how I can help you have success without sacrifice.
And that is talkwitheva.com.
Yep.
Love it. Actually, that's a great idea. I like how you put that into a URL. That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so easy to remember, right?
hmm Yeah, that's fantastic. And all of those websites and those links and everything will be in the show notes. And so, is there anything else you'd like to share, Eva?
You know, what I would like to say to people as a final thought, that is your ability to be successful and your success depends on your ability to prioritize without regret. A lot of our childhood guilt keeps us from being as successful as we can be, whether it's the need to please, the need to control, the the need to avoid the uncomfortable, whatever your relationship style is. You get to prioritize without regret, because success requires selfishness.
I love it. Well, thank you for being on Solopreneur Money Podcast, Eva. I truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, solopreneurs, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Eva Medilek of Style for Success LLC. To contact her, just go to the show notes. All of her information is there. My three main takeaways are: one, there's a style, as she said, her acronym, a style with how we communicate, which is based upon how we were raised. And that has a tendency to affect us in our lives, in our businesses, and our whole being. So one thing I would say to do is go to her website, take that quiz to get an understanding of what your style is, so that you can figure out how to then take the next steps forward to be a better communicator, a better business owner, better husband, better wife, just a better human being. Number two, she talked about this CPR to jumpstart the whole idea of getting clear on your high performance habits. And that was clarity, for getting clear of where you're trying to go, priorities, setting the priorities as to what you need to do to help achieve the vision that has come from your clear vision. And then also to have the responsibility to communicate properly, as well as set boundaries, so that you can then start to achieve the things that you're trying to do, or take your business to that other level, or your life to that other level. And then the third one is really, don't be afraid to take a pit stop. We need to be able to refuel, recharge, and really slow down to get a better view of what's going on, so that we know where we need to go next. That allows us to master our finances and create the life that you want. So I really appreciate you listening. Please share this with a friend and have a fantastic day.